Right now on Denver 7 News at 8 o'clock on Local 3, a major shakeup at the top of one of Colorado's largest police departments.
Plus, President Biden is in Europe pledging new support for Ukrainians fleeing war and tough new sanctions for Russian leaders.
Also, the special honor for a local girl who stayed calm in a very scary situation. What she did when a thief took their family's vehicle with her inside.
I was thinking about, when I'm out of this, I'm going to get a big bucket of ice cream.
Just 10 years old, but she used happy thoughts there to find the courage to keep her wits about her and help her parents find her and her siblings. So we'll have their story just ahead. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Sanders.
And I'm Nicole Brady, and taking a live look outside from our Mile High camera. Another thing to smile about this morning, it's sunny outside. And we're going to be looking at the 70s here soon, Lisa.
Yeah, pretty much all good news when it comes to weather here over the next 5 days. Mild and breezy today, but the winds have really calmed down compared to what we saw yesterday. And it's going to stay dry through Monday. We may even see a little record heat this weekend on Sunday, pretty close to the record high at that point. Today, we're about 10 degrees above normal. Your biking forecast is a nice one. For kids that either want to bike to school or those that are on spring break, we're going to be in the low 60s here by noon. Mid to upper 60s for highs today. So we've got Denver at right around 67 between about 4 and 5 o'clock. Platteville 68. You're going to be in the low to mid 60s near Parker, and in the mountains some 40s and 50s. So some really pleasant conditions up and through the high country today. And it gets even warmer this coming weekend. Coming up here in a few minutes, we'll take a closer look at just how warm it's going to be. Statewide mild today, but actually kind of toasty this weekend. We're talking 80s potentially in spots, Jason, on Sunday.
I'll finally be able to see my backyard, maybe. Right now we have still that railroad work that's happening up here on 287 that has a close down between Dillon and Miramonte. Earlier, Air Tracker 7 was over it, and you could see the work that continues up there. That's why the southbound and the northbound lanes remain closed down, because they have the road torn up. They have that center line right there, right next to the railroad crossing, and so they're trying to get it smoother for you. It's going to take some time today and into tomorrow. Right now, the drive to get around it, it's going to use Miramonte, maybe Cole Street and Aspen over to Dillon Road, just like we have over the last couple of days. The crash over at I-25 at 104th has been cleared, which is good news. Still looking at some slow and go traffic out here to the east side of town. Earlier crash over here by Peoria has been cleared up, and still looking at a lot of stop and go traffic on 225 and the Denver Tech Center Drive, especially on that southbound into that Sunshine.
Well, we are following breaking news this morning of a major shakeup for the Aurora Police Department.
Yeah, sources tell Denver 7 Chief Vanessa Wilson plans to resign in a few weeks. Our Veronica Acosta is here with what's likely driving her decision, Veronica.
Well, 3 high-ranking sources actually confirmed to Denver 7 investigator Jennifer Kowaleski that the chief plans to resign. This is after pressure has been mounting against the Aurora Police Chief Vanessa Wilson. Sources say she has lost the confidence of her officers, but despite being told of those resignation plans, we're still waiting to hear about the terms, and they're still being negotiated and remain fluid. Chief Wilson became the interim chief back in 2019. That was after the former chief retired, and really since then it has been a tumultuous time in the department. By the time Chief Wilson took over, public trust in APD had already dwindled. The death of Elijah McClain in 2019, and then the drunk driving scandal involving Officer Nathan Meyer had already come to light by the time she took over. In August of 2020, this happened. Aurora PD detained and handcuffed a black woman and several children because they thought they were in a stolen vehicle. The vehicle they were in was an SUV. Police should have been looking for a motorcycle. Chief Wilson apologized for that. Last year in February, Chief Wilson fired 3 officers who posed for the photo you're seeing there, mocking the death of Elijah McClain. Later, Colorado's Attorney General announced charges against the paramedics and the officers who detained and injected him with ketamine. In July of last year, Denver 7 spoke with Chief Wilson about the uptick in crime and the loss of officers, which was at a record high last year. In 2019, Aurora PD had 52 officers leave the department. In 2020, that number was at 87. 2021, 126. And so far this year, 10 officers. That includes resignations, retirements, terminations, deaths, and transfers. In October, the Aurora Fraternal Order of Police passed a vote of no confidence. That was 442 to 16. Chief Wilson is the first woman to hold that position with APD. She has been with the department for 25 years now. We reached out to the city of Aurora for confirmation on all of this. They told us they would not engage in, quote, speculative conversations on any personal matter, though. In the studio, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Clearly a lot of elements to this story. We do expect it to develop over the next 24 hours, so we'll be staying on top of it for you and bring you anything we learn on air and on thedenverchannel.com. Heading to Brussels this morning, where President Biden and other G7 leaders are holding an emergency meeting about the war in Ukraine. This is a live look outside the building there in Brussels. We just got an update from the White House. President Biden is ready to welcome up to 100,000 Ukrainian refugees to the U.S. Also, the European Union will sanction 328 members of Russia's parliament. They're also going after top banking officials and nearly 50 companies that make weapons for Russia's military. It was earlier this morning President Biden spoke at NATO's headquarters and reiterated America's unwavering support for Ukrainians.
Just before President Biden spoke, the Ukrainian president addressed the chamber through video. Volodymyr Zelensky stopped short of asking for a no-fly zone, as he has previously asked for, but he asked NATO to supply Ukraine with tanks and fighter jets. The Department of Defense has rejected those requests, saying Ukrainians are being more effective with the missiles and ammunition they're supplying them. The Pentagon says Ukrainian soldiers have retaken a key suburb of Kyiv, the capital city. NATO estimates 15,000 Russian troops have been killed in the one-month war. Ukrainian hospitals, though, are losing critical supplies as they continue to fight off Russian attacks.
There is a group in Colorado preparing to send medical supplies to the region. Denver 7's Jessica Crawford joins us this morning. Jessica, you spoke to a Ukrainian woman who is doing everything she can to organize this aid.
That's right, and her message was that there is no task too small that we Coloradans can do to help offer some support to the Ukrainians.
Life-saving supplies ready to be packed up and shipped out to a country under siege.
It's horrific to even think of what they do and what level of terror and genocide my people going through.
Marina Dobrova arrived in the U.S. in the 90s. Ever since then, she's done all she could to help her home country with the group Ukrainians of Colorado. When Russia began to attack Ukraine, she wanted to do more.
All the pictures of cities which I remember as being so beautiful and happy, full of life, and now they're all in shambles, they're rubble. It's unimaginable.
One of the country's greatest needs, medical supplies. This week, volunteers are needed to help get these supplies to Ukraine.
Russians cut the supply, humanitarian supply. They refuse to open humanitarian corridors, or they let people leave those occupied cities and then they just shoot them in the back.
As we know, many hospitals have been bombed and people do not have medical supplies.
Does every little thing count in this situation?
I think every little thing counts in everything we do. You know, there's hundreds of millions of Americans, and if we all do something, it really adds up.
That support, Dobrova says, is needed now more than ever.
It's unimaginable situation some of our brothers and sisters are going through.
Volunteers will be packing up those medical supplies today. You can sign up to help for tomorrow when volunteers will be at the Project Cure in Centennial. I do have information on the Denver Channel's website where you can find out how you can sign up. Live in Denver, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
Thank you, Jessica. Still ahead, a major trade show pulls out of Denver despite threats to boycott it from the biggest names in outdoor gear. And why airlines are calling for a drop in the mask requirement on flights.